We have a society based on certain expectations. As Americans, we go through our daily life expecting certain reasonable things are going to be taken care of. And our central expectation is that we will be treated fairly. We're not expecting any kind of special treatment. We just want the same opportunity as the next guy or girl. And that's what this is all about, and that's why we're here today. Congress passed the Unlawful Internet Gambling Enforcement Act to make sure no one uses the financial systems to get around our gambling laws. We put an exception for fantasy sports because we didn't want to burden groups of friends that get together to have friendly contests and see who knows most about the sport. That's really the genesis. We thought we were making a small exception. We never imagined this. I don't think anyone anticipated these daily games, let alone for it to turn into a multi-billion-dollar industry with prizes up to $2 million and partners that include the NFL and ESPN. I don't think anyone anticipated that these sites would be big enough to blanket our lives with advertisements. There's a giant FanDuel billboard hanging over the sports complex along Route 120. You can't miss it. And when you have such a large industry with little federal or other oversight, there is nothing to guarantee that the level playing field that is so central to our society is in fact level. And we're seeing the results of that. The sites are entrusted with data that would give anyone with access an edge in these contests. One of the employees working for one of these daily fantasy sports inadvertently released user data early, which means he had access to it before anyone else, which is pretty crazy considering he won $350,000 that same week. That looks like a lot of insider trading to me. And using inside information in order to game the system is cheating, plain and simple. Now I hear that the sites are going to clean up their act. They're going to ban their employees from using other daily fantasy sports websites, and they're going to ban other fantasy sports websites' employees from using their websites. And that's a good start. But damage has already been done, and I think that fans who play these sites deserve some answers. I think we deserve to know how we got here, how the major players in the industry thought this conduct was fine, that this was acceptable. And I think we deserve to know what else has been going on. This only came to light because an employee leaked information. So what else has been going on behind the scenes? What else don't fantasy players know is going on in the back offices? Now, the operators of these sites openly admitted in public statements that their employees have pocketed millions in winnings playing each other's games. Employees of DraftKings alone have won nearly $6 million playing on FanDuel. They can try to minimize it all they want, saying it's only a small percentage of total winnings, but we're talking about $6 million. $6 million potentially cheated from everyday fantasy sports enthusiasts who are playing by the rules and not privy to inside information. In light of what we've all learned this past week and given the enormous financial interests, I have serious concerns about whether these online fantasy sports leagues can police themselves. That's why Congressman Pallone and I have asked the Federal Trade Commission to look into this. The FTC protect Americans from unfair business practices and businesses letting their employees play in competitors' contests after having access to insider data seems pretty unfair to me. It's like an employee from one corporation using inside non-public information about his corporation to make stock trades with another financial institution. That we know is absolutely illegal. Of course, Congress also has the responsibility to make sure that the Federal Trade Commission actually has the authority to protect consumers. I think Congress needs to look into this and see whether by exempting fantasy sports from the Unlawful Internet Gambling Enforcement Act, we've created a regulatory vacuum that leaves consumers out in the cold. What's the difference between placing bets on the success of a team, or success or failure of a team, and of a specific player? I don't see much difference. But the NFL is expending enormous resources to preventing fans from placing bets on games happening right across the parking lot when it's already happening inside the stadium. Fans are on their mobile devices, setting their lineups, making wagers on those online fantasy sites from their seats at MetLife. The hypocrisy is pretty glaring. And it's not just the NFL. The other major professional sports leagues are no different. Whether it's an ownership stake some have or the millions of dollars in advertising they're enjoying from these online fantasy sports games, perhaps their financial interests are blinding their judgments. Maybe we need to start treating online fantasy sports gaming like traditional sports betting, which has safeguards in place to protect the player. There's a lot of money at stake, and these sites are drawing in tons of players. The players should know that they're not being duped, because ultimately that's what this is about. This is about fairness and enduring a level playing field for fantasy sports fans. We expect that in our lives. We should expect that in these games, that the fantasy can actually be a reality, and that reality is a fair and level playing field. So with that, let me introduce our colleague from the House of Representatives, someone, as I said earlier, is leading in this regard and has a major seat on which to cast not only a light, but legislation, Congressman Frank.